Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. Today, we have a special episode for everyone. Myth and I, as well as many other people in the world of Destiny, have gotten little toys in the mail. These toys being the collector's edition, the physical collector's edition for the final shape. Oh my God. It is freaking amazing. We're not going to go through everything in it. I am going to kind of point out a few things that I absolutely loved here at the beginning. But our main focus is going to be the lore book that came with it for this episode, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Myth told me how it was pronounced, and I'm leaving that to him. Bungie keeps making up these shit ass words that I can't pronounce. Anyway. So the collection edition physical version, the one thing that my wife and I both, oh my God, we were in tears crying over this thing, is the signature book that has it's from it has signatures from oh, I guess I should probably put a spoiler warning somewhere, shouldn't I, Myth?
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, spoilers. There's stuff in the collector's edition. We're going to talk about it. If you haven't gotten yours or you don't want to hear about it, go away. I know. I'm so excited, Myth. This is the first piece of the puzzle of the final shape is on its way here, and we're almost there. This is the last stretch to get through before we actually get to touch final shape. And then, of course, Tuesday was the whole show off prismatic, and oh my God. Myth and I are losing our minds over this thing. I'm trying to find a way to have all 5 Warlock buddies at the same time. I'm close. I'm so close. I can get 3, maybe 4. Can't quite get the 5th one in there. But anyway, back to the collection edition. The signature book for me. It was amazing. It's all the signatures from everyone. There's one from Zavala, Ikora, Micah 10, and all her little ghosts that follow her. The Valis Forge and a War Beast has a print. It had me in tears. Literally, my wife and I we could not make it. There's a whole fold out thing that looks like it's drawn by the kids of the city. I'm 90% sure everything in this was the kids of people of Bungie, their kids and stuff drew those pictures. It's amazing.
I mean, yeah, they're outsourcing.
That's what exactly. Oh, that's a little hard, doesn't it? That's a little awkward there, but it's kind of on point.
What will make this perfect? I know, child labor.
Shit. No, but the signature book was just it was amazing. It really hit right in the feels. And then the tower that comes with it. There's little figures on it, and there's a hidden little figure. I'm not going to tell you how to get to it, but there's a hidden figure on it. Don't pry and stuff at your tower. There are many videos out there that are do not poke at shit and pry shit off of it. Just set it, enjoy it, figure it out. So yeah, all of that was amazing. But again, here at Myths and Stories, we do lore, and so of course we have to talk about this book, Myth. We can't just get it and be like, neat, see you in 2 months. No, we're talking about it now, which I haven't read it yet. Myth has read it, so I need to do my homework more.
So yeah, you're gonna get a first time reaction from one of us.
Yay.
I have gone through. I've only read this once at this point, so there's likely going to be some extra things I pick up on a second read through. But yeah,
or random things that my squirrel brain. No. Okay, we also have to clarify. I no longer have a squirrel brain. I have a goldfish brain because I can't spell the word squirrel.
Yes.
So there are things that my goldfish brain might connect to in this that might lead Myth down paths.
Absolutely. But yeah. So this is I think going to be a very important book as to informing us about the mindset of the witness, or the mindset of the people the witness came from. So the book is entitled Entelechy, And this term refers to the supposed vital principle that guides the development and function of an organism or system or organization. In some cases, it is synonymous with the soul.
Oh my.
So, pretty, very astute name considering the witness is all about, the purpose of the universe, the final shape. Well,
That's a hard thing to define. Like, what is the purpose of a soul?
yeah.
Oh my. This is going to be deep. Okay, I'm excited.
So, this book, just to kind of preface and let you guys know how it works, um, this is a book that is thematically being presented to us, the Guardian, by Ido, the daughter of Mithrax, the scribe of House Light. She has gone out and gathered information for us to use in the upcoming fight. And she has gathered it from all across the solar system, all across the Elixni peoples as well. Um, and has found some truly fascinating information. And so each entry is a scribe archive, which is essentially the record she found. And then there's a little breakdown from Ido about what she thinks the record means. So, I without further ado, we don't have chapter titles like a traditional lore book for this one. And I am going to read, although it is a little hard to translate into like from visual to audio, I am going to read the headers for each of these documents because in some cases the headers are have important information. But the first scribe archive, which is XI24A. The header for it says type personal communications unsent draft retrieved from Wintership Simix Fell databank E7619P origin HD 219134 unidentified ship tetrahedral structure, derelict, heavily damaged, left in place. Keywords Gardner, final shape, HNW047622. Identities HNW047622. So to pause real quick, just to break some of that down for you. This is a transcript of a personal communication that was never sent, that was recovered by an Elixni ship, that's the winter ship Simix Fell, and was stored in that ship's databank. The
Was
original
there a House
record,
Winter?
yes, there was.
Is that okay? That's I was trying to figure out why it was called Winter Ship, and that's sorry, I didn't mean to like. I know that probably doesn't mean anything right now, but I'm just you know
Nope,
my goldfish brain connecting dots.
nope, I hear you. But so the Elixni ship was the Simix Fell, and that Elixni ship came upon an unidentified ship, which was tetrahedral in structure, and was derelict, was abandoned. Uh, and they got this information off that derelict ship, but the ship itself was left in place wherever in space they found it.
I was
So,
just about to ask, do we know where in space this was? Was this in the
uh,
Sol system or just somewhere in the universe?
we'll find out later on that this is somewhere in the universe during the Great Drift when the
Okay,
Elixni were migrating to the Sol system.
post their collapse.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, the transcript of this personal communication says this. I arrived at the garden to be to find barren rock, as lifeless as the expanse around it, just as the surveys said. It's perfect. Rather, it will be perfect. The moment I laid eyes on the allotted system, I knew my initial plans had to go. How inelegant they were, those drafts drawn up in smiling ignorance. Only experience could have cured me of such short-sightedness. Yes, now I can see the path to the summit pyramidian final shape. Here the Mataretta blade leaves. There the green glass is body bloom blossoms arcing overhead. I have brought enough progenitor material to seed 100 worlds, never mind 5. In time, there will be a grand harvest of panacea from this garden. I'm sure both you and your merciful, penitent benefict will be pleased. I could cover these bare rocks with greenhouses, of course. Rows of neat enclosures, lights in just the right spectra, growth solutions mixed to just the right proportions, microclimate domes calibrating within a fraction of degree. Very neat, very efficient, very, very boring. After all, that would just be a reflection, shard, imitation of system R3TN PLRMA, wouldn't it? And you know, I've never had any interest in recreating other people's designs. So just between you and me, here's a little secret. The Panacea progenitors weren't all I brought with me. I can hear you scolding me now, but there is so much space in the cargo hold, and, well, to be frank, you're not here to disapprove. Besides, if you could see this allotment as I do, see the potential writ in the cracks and crevices of every rock, feel the heart song of their molten cores, you would understand. But you won't need to take my word for it. By the time you can bear to leave the work long enough to come visit, my garden will have taken root and grown strong. How lovely it will be to sit together and listen to the wind whistling through the boughs. Perhaps even you will smile. Oh, but I mustn't get ahead of myself. Before any of this can happen, I'll need to prepare. I've unfurled the pergolia to capture what I need to weave each planet's atmosphere. The pergolia's sail is so vast that I must cross my ship from vertex to vertex to see around the sparkling cloth. It's exhilarating. I've wielded the gardener's tools before, but never at such a scale. It feels unfair, honestly. You led the development of such marvels, and yet you're leaps away, unable to see the culmination of your hard work. I know you claim it doesn't matter to you, but as long as you know your work is being put to good use. But still, permit me this idle fancy. At this rate, it shouldn't take more than a few centuries before I have enough substrate to work with. And then, well, you'll just have to come and see the summit pyramidian final shape for yourself. Now, won't you? And that's the end of the transcript.
What? Shit. Shit.
So,
Chapter
bef-
1, and I have already, my brain has collapsed in on itself.
yes. So before we get too far into like a deep dive here,
Okay.
um,
I'm itching for
there's
it, Myth. This is nuts.
there is an additional scribe archive that is attached to this. This is XI25C. This is from the same ship, off the same, the same Lixney ship. Discovered this on the same derelict ship. This is the cargo manifest for that derelict ship. So, they were referring to having progenitors and having this panacea stuff. We see in their cargo, they had these 3 sections. Section 1, preserved in resin. And they list asphodelia, stem cuttings, panacea. Verut, whole leaf cuttings, soil enrichment. is body, root cuttings, panacea, so on. Then they also had a section for cold storage, where they had things such as lyseridite, seeds, decorative, ottery, seeds, decorative. And then under equipment, which is another section, there was some additional things. Pergolia for atmospheric weaving on loan. Replacement sails in case of damage. Creches for initial abiogenesis. Canisters, elemental synthesis, vacuum tube, so on and so forth. So this is a list of some of the items that they were talking about that they took with them on this ship.
Sounds like shit to build worlds.
Well, I think that's exactly what's happening. So, do you want to discuss what you think before we get into
I
Ido's notes, or do you
I
want to
don't
see
know.
what Ido thinks and then go from there?
Well, okay, so that's one question I have there. The second entry is Ido's specific notes, right? Like it's not just any scribe.
Correct. This is
Okay.
Ido saying, "This is what I think that last record means."
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and combine the two then.
Okay.
I'm losing my mind over this. At first when it first started talking, I thought that was the gardener talking.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't know who the hell it is now though.
We'll see what Ido thinks, and I tend to agree with her in that respect. So there are a couple things in the reading you may have noticed where I like repeated a couple words like merciful, penitent, benefict, reflection, shard, imitation, summit, pyramidion, final shape. In the reading, these are words that it's like in brackets and it's word slash word slash word. And I think that is to mean that like in the translation of this, it could mean any of those words kind of thing. Um,
The fact that
so
pyramidium is mentioned, like
yeah, and it's
that's a
capital P,
huge.
so it's
Yeah,
like it's a
it's
name.
the to me that's the pyramidium. That's Ashermir's all over that. Like that's
Yeah, so
what the fuck is this
I
myth?
did
I'm
find that
losing
really
my brain.
interesting. Uh, Now pyramidion may refer to something else. It may not be the pyramidion as far as the Vex on Io goes, because pyramidion
Right.
in general um, tends to mean just a small pyramid, usually at the
Okay.
top of an obelisk or at the apex of a large structure.
Gotcha.
But the fact it's capitalized means it's a proper noun, so who knows? But Io's notes on this. So at first, she takes a couple notes about some particular words in the reading. The first of those words being panacea. So she notes that this appears to be a general term used to refer to organic material with medicinal properties. Okay. The second one that she takes a note on is the merciful, penitent, benefic. And she says a group or organization of some sort. Mentions of the group across various records suggest that its members were scientists and doctors. So, when they refer to your merciful, your penitent, your benefic, they're referring to a group of some sort, an organization. The next thing that she notes on is gardener, which is capitalized here, which she is assuming to be in reference to the traveler. And the last one being the kind of identity of the author of this, the HNW047622. That is also how they kind of sign the end of the message. So she takes that to be an identification code of some sort that is associated with this individual. Now, her observations on the contents of this message go as follows. I began my search with the familiar. During the long drift, peaceful encounters between catches were rare, even when they hailed from the same house. But when such meetings did occur, they would exchange valuable resources, including data. This practice helped the Elixni navigate that vast and dangerous void, to know who might open fire or which areas had already been stripped of resources. These data exchanges leave traces, and if the relevant entries are later overwritten, a scribe can track these traces to their source, especially a scribe who grew up with the hum of a servitor. I combed the databanks of our light ships for any mention of the witness, and followed those paths as they forked through dozens of catches. Based on a single mention of records recovered from a tetrahedral ship, I was able to track down these transcripts. They were buried in the databanks of a decommissioned House Winter ketch, the Simix Fell. Repairing the ship's generator was quite an adventure. I shall have to tell you about it another time, though. According to the Simix Fell collection log, the transcribed records were originally found aboard a derelict ship encountered during the Long Drift. Associated telemetry suggests that this derelict was similar, but not identical, to the Witness's fleet of pyramid ships. An older design, perhaps. The ship was ancient beyond reckoning, and though it was badly damaged and abandoned, some of the data crystals were intact enough to be decrypted. It's a shame that the Simix Fel did not bring along any of the physical crystals. I'm sure the Cryptarchy would have liked to have a look. But these are the oldest of all the records I have found, by an order of magnitude. When they were originally penned, the species that would go on to become the Ecumene had not even emerged from primordial ooze. Though my findings are not conclusive, I believe that these documents were created by the witnesses' precursors, which revered the great machine as the gardener. Though they were hardly the only civilization to use a similar title, other elements suggest a possible connection. The tetrahedral structure of the derelict, where this record was recovered, and a repeated mention of a concept that roughly translates as final shape. There was one last note of interest from the collection log about the star system where the derelict was encountered. Every planet in the system showed large-scale damage from crude explosives, and no signs of life were found. And that's where we're going to pause before the next record.
My brain has collapsed, Myth. I'm losing it. I'm losing my grip on reality right now, Myth. What in the hell is this?
So here's what we know. We know the Witness was originally an entire civilization of people.
Correct. Eons ago. That's
untold amounts of time ago. Like they are as far as we know, they are the original race that the Traveler had a connection with.
Sure.
Or at least the oldest race that we have record of.
Possibly the oldest race of the universe.
Possibly, yes. And we know that they had the Traveler, and they found it, and they had it in their society for eons more. Like for untold, so they lived possibly near the very beginning of the universe, and they had access to the Traveler and all of the things that they could learn from it for possibly hundreds of thousands of years, maybe millions of years.
Millions of billions of years, trillions of years. Eons. An eon to me is a long ass fucking time.
I mean, it's literally like an uncountable amount of time.
Uncountable amount of time. Yeah. That's what.
So it's hard to wrap your head around what exactly that amount of time is, but essentially they had the Traveler for so long that they could do absolutely anything and everything with it. If Ido is correct in stating that this is a record from a member of that original civilization, before they condensed into becoming the Witness, presumably during their golden eon, where they had the Traveler, it sounds like they were actively going out and terraforming solar systems.
Yeah.
And and it says in there, I have used the gardener's tools before. So it makes it sound like
Maybe they've done it in like a
in multiple
continent or
places.
something.
Right.
Or
Like,
or a smaller scale. Because
yeah.
specifically the one when they mentioned never at such scale, what I'm taking that as like they terraformed an island, and they're like, okay, neat.
Right.
This exactly what Ido describes here is like a group of scientists. They're like, okay, I've tested it here. All my theories work on this. Now let's up the scale. Now let's change one variable type thing. Like, okay, can I do this on a bigger scale? And that's, at least to me, that's what it seems like this entry is about. Is this is their first test on something bigger than like an island or a continent or something. Like
Yeah.
it definitely feels like they're doing whole. I mean, the beginning of the entry, I've arrived at the garden to be, um, to find barren rock. So I'm assuming, at my first thought when they said garden, I was like, oh my god, are they creating the black garden here? Is this what's happening? But I'm assuming that to be, uh, in terms of, Gardner and Winnower, um, of the unveiling books, right, where they talk about how like an entire solar system is a garden to them.
Yeah.
So to me, this person, whoever this entry is, this HNW person, is arriving at a system, a localized system, and is starting to mess with each individual planet, the way that they describe the gardener, or the traveler. Now, again, you know me, I'm always hesitant about calling the traveler the gardener, but everyone in the entire Destiny universe seems to be making that connection.
At the very least, this civilization is referring to the Traveler as the gardener.
And the fact that it's possibly the oldest civilization in existence of this universe, referring to it as the gardener, again, we know that the Witness took it upon themselves when they became the Witness, or after they became the Witness, to like give the universe purpose. And so like we know a little bit of the unveiling might just be like they were shown a vision of how the solar system or the universe was created, and now they're taking it on themselves to be the winnower, to be the purpose of the universe. But I don't know, man. If this person is part of that original species, and this person is referring to it as the gardener, I'm starting to be 70-30 that the traveler might actually be the gardener, and the Witness might actually be whatever the winnower was supposed to be.
Hard to say. The Witness. So both of those titles, though, both the title of gardener and winnower, were like no one told them, oh, that's what these entities are called. That's just what their civilization
Oh, sure.
decided to call the Traveler and then themselves.
Gotcha. Yep.
Uh, and we learned that from Asa's vision that she gives
Yep.
us.
Yep. That
Um,
little cutscene. That cutscene, that still is like becoming like the pinnacle of like information for everything Witness and
yeah.
and Traveler and Veil relation.
So there's a couple of interesting things in the cargo hold here. Uh, so looking at, okay, this is a species that is terraforming this system, and presumably they have terraformed other systems as well, because it says, after all, that would just be a reflection of system R3TN and I've never had any interest in recreating other people's designs. So it sounds like maybe this is one of a couple of tests for this.
Sure.
And presumably the technology to do this has all been developed by this penitent group, this organization of scientists that whomever this letter is being penned to is a member of. Because they say you led the development of such marvels, and yet your leaps away, unable to see the culmination of your hard work.
Yep. Yep. And
So,
then the other line, like, I'm sure both you and your penitent
yeah,
benevolent will be pleased.
yeah. So I read this as, okay. if we assume precursor race, which I'm just going to call them the precursors from this point forward, for lack of a better term.
I mean, until we get a name, we can call them whatever the hell we want.
Yeah. So this precursor race has seen the traveler terraform stuff in their own system.
Yep.
We know that they were on like a desert world, and it became, based on the imagery in Asa's vision, like it became lush and like a full civilization.
Yep.
Uh, it looks like they have studied the traveler for so long that they have devised technology to replicate that process. And they refer to it as like this giant sheet, essentially this giant sail. Um, and in the cargo hold, it refers to it. This pergola says for atmospheric weaving. So it's almost like it's silly, but I'm envisioning like they're throwing this blanket
That's
over the planet and it's making an atmosphere.
I mean, that's literally like when I read that word, I thought it was pergola, which is like what you'd put over your back deck to stop the sun from coming in. It's like a type of shade for
Yeah,
your deck. So that when you said that, like I was like, okay, well that checks out. That
yeah. Uh,
they're throwing the shade over this planet and be like, okay, atmosphere, go.
so they may very well be doing exactly that. Um, so they have this tech that's weaving the atmosphere. Now the big question that you may have is, okay, they're terraforming these planets, but is the purpose of terraforming them so that they can spread their own civilization, or are they terraforming them for different purposes? And what I believe they're doing is they are attempting to find their purpose in, even now at this early stage, they're trying to find their purpose in imitation of the traveler.
Yeah,
The traveler came, it terraformed, and not for itself, but for the ability for life to flourish there. I believe they're doing the same. I believe they're terraforming not for themselves, but for the ability for life to evolve and flourish on these terraformed planets. And the reason I say that is because in the cargo hold, one of the things that they talk about is, and now I'm going to lose it, right here, creches for initial abiogenesis.
I was
Abiogenesis,
going to say you're gonna have to break some words down for me.
yep. Abiogenesis is the process by which living organisms arise from non-living matter. So I think they're literally seeding the universe. They're literally
That's what
going
it sounds like.
around
Yeah,
terraforming planets to be able to sustain life and then injecting that planet with all of the chemicals needed for organic life to form, and presumably are just leaving it there to let evolution
to
do
see
its
what
thing.
happens.
Yeah.
Well, and I like that idea of like to just see what happens too, because of this final entry in the the final entry of this. Well, no, even an earlier entry, where this entity talks about, yes, now I can see the path to the summit pyramidium final shape, and then at the end he signs off with like, well, you'll just have to come and see the summit pyramidium final shape for yourself, won't you? Like it it's almost like they're trying to figure out a different path to the final shape.
And I'm thinking that there may have
Like
been
ideas.
multiple ideas as to what the final shape was.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what this entry is like making me think.
Like that is one thing that, and we talked about this when we on our episode about like when we learned the origins of the witness from Asa, that the merging of this entire species into one being, which was the witness, we're like, yeah, but did everybody agree to that, or did it just
we
happen?
we literally made people up and was like, "Hey Bob, I don't think that's a good idea. Jill, are you in on this?" And Jill's like, "I'm not joining that big old hunk of whatever."
Yeah.
And then like 2 weeks later, they're like, "Well, too bad."
So this begs the question: maybe there was a dissenting opinion. Maybe there was a group or a faction or multiple factions at one time that all had different ideas of what the final shape was.
I
And
told you this entry broke my brain, Myth.
and this group's interpretation, based on this first reading at least, seems to be, well, let's our purpose is to do what the traveler did. Let's bestow life throughout the universe. Makes you
Yeah,
wonder.
yeah. Let's do it to it. Like, what would happen if they were the final, if they were the witness?
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, like, if they did, this person and maybe many others, since it says there are other systems that this was done on, or similar processes were done on, uh like, what worlds sprung from them terraforming? Like,
Oh my God, did they
did
make our world?
did they make Destiny's
I mean,
version of
it
Soul?
it says like the all this stuff seems like it was pinned before the ecumene had sorry, I'm trying to paraphrase and read at the same time. Uh, when they were Ido states when they were originally pinned, talking about this entry here that was written by HNO blah 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 blah. The species that would go on to become the ecumene had not even emerged from primordial ooze. So again, talking about the age of this thing, like they could have seeded that planet. They could
They
have been
could
the
have,
creators of the ecumene. They could have been the
yeah,
creators of harmony. They could have been the creators of the cabal.
a
They could have been the
fundament.
creators of everything.
I mean, honestly, we who knows?
What the fuck, Myth?
So that
This
is
is the
the
first entry.
this is the first entry.
This is gonna be a long episode, Myth.
uh, so this then brings us on to another archive, um, which is now a discussion uh, between this HNW character and a new character, which is only referred to as RS624399. So HN and RS, we'll say.
Do we
Uh,
have any type of like inclination of what that could stand for, or are these just literal just monikers? Like,
as far as we know at this time, they're just monikers. And again, like, these are beings that existed so long ago. I don't know how we would have a point of reference.
sure, we like they could just be called Sally and Henry. No, I guess
I've
it'd be Henry and what would R be?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. There, done,
There you
done.
go.
Henry and Rebecca.
Yep. But so this is another communications log. Where the previous one was an unsent draft. This is a log of a back and forth. This is retrieved from the rain ship Talik Sin. So the House of Rain.
Oh,
Um,
real quick, I didn't even catch that of the first entry. That entire log was not sent.
right, that entire log was an
That was just
unsent draft.
HN just wrote this whole thing down. Oh, so what happened to HN?
Well,
Why would
HN
it
is
not
a
have been
part of this
sent?
next log.
Okay,
But yeah, for whatever reason, they typed all of that and then they never hit send.
gotcha.
Um, but yeah, so this one's coming from a House of Rain catch. Uh, and this one is coming from not a derelict ship, but a long range communications buoy that or the ruins of a derelict ruin of a long range communications buoy. And Ido picked up on it because it has that same HNW 04622 as one of the correspondents in the records of this communications buoy. Uh, so we don't have an idea of how much time has passed between this communication and the last one, uh, or if this one was before the last one or after the last one or any of that. I'm choosing to believe it's after, just kind of based on the tone of it. Um, but this is a conversation between RS and HN, and it goes like this. RS. We mustn't abandon the path to the final shape simply because it is difficult. HN. Difficult. You are being willfully obtuse. Difficult might describe a sustained effort or self-denial done with intent and care for one's own well-being. What you are describing is coercion. RS. A moment's coercion to prevent a millennia's suffering. We can see what will happen if we sit idly by, if we choose to do nothing, and in our inaction allow this carnage to continue. Then we are complicit. Thus, the ethical choice is to act. At what cost? With what means? Would you advocate for the use of violence? Will you approve the murder of those who disagree? Will you and your penitent cause lower harm for greater good? No, never. The purpose and the means are inseparable. It is simple teleology. We are not advocating for needless cruelty. There are countless methods of intervention at our disposal with compassion as their guiding pillar. The transition, uplifting enlightenment would be uncomfortable, naturally, but the alternative is to sit idly by and watch the inevitable extinction of a species, an extinction we could prevent. If the final shape is truly the greatest good imaginable, then its rightness should be self-evident. It should be so clear to anyone and anything that comprehends it that we should never need to do more than share the information for them to reach the same conclusion. That we have failed to do so, even among the consensus, suggests imperfections in our own understanding. If we cannot prove an apodictic final shape even to each other, to our own kin, whom we strive to understand as well as our own selves, then how can we possibly declare it fit to teach to others? What good is perfection if it is purely theoretical? All concepts are refined through practice. If we focus on ourselves to the exclusion of all others, if we refuse to help others and thereby pursue our perfect happiness at the cost of their interminable pain, what do we call that, if not selfishness? Humility, acceptance of our own limited perspective. Indifference to suffering? I am not indifferent. I would gladly endure pain if doing so would help others. It is a different matter entirely to force it upon somebody else, even for the sake of another. An improperly healed bone must be rebroken before it can be set properly. An infected wound must be lanced. Do you abstain from uprooting weeds even if they threaten to strangle your garden? If some suffering is inevitable, then surely it is better to seek the maximum good from it. If the choice is between greater and lesser evils, then the choice itself is flawed. I refuse to participate. I agree with you, in theory, but we do not exist purely in the theoretical. This suffering is already happening now, all the time, everywhere we look. Come see me, and I will show you the observatory's readings. Such sights as we have seen, my friend, make me sick to my soul. I thought the observatory could only see possibilities, the future branches of past visible light readings. We have made improvements. The glass mines trim the excess branches. What we see now are the strongest paths, and in the seeing they become true. Then tell me what you have seen. I gain nothing from running from the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Cities turning on themselves in a frenzy of self-destruction. Children offering up parents in superstitious sacrifice to bloodied gods. An entire people who would boil off their own atmosphere rather than let their neighbors enjoy fresh air. Great waves drowning worlds. Bodies which do not decompose, for everything, down to the very bacteria, has died as well. Machine plagues carving their prediction machines into moons. Your garden destroyed. As the observatory saw it, so it came to pass. I apologize. I was unkind. I was wrong to bring up old hurts. It is as you say. Sometimes an infected wound must be lanced before it can heal. You should not be ashamed of your physician's instinct. I have meditated on your words. I sat in my ship keeping company with the pain I felt when I saw my worlds burning. That terrible loss. You would prevent such a thing from happening again. You have always wished to protect others from harm, and I honor that. But I have reached a different conclusion from you. As I saw the ruin of my great work, my thoughts traced a different path. If the final shape is the greatest good, then it must be enduring, inconvertible, self-fulfilling. That my garden could be destroyed suggests that it was not a final shape after all. Perhaps the ship which came to burn it down understood its final shape better than I. Are you suggesting that the final shape of that system was its destruction, for it to be left a blasted ruin? Is it not a possibility? Then what we have seen through the observatory might as well be the final shape too. Suffering and misery, anarchy, endless self-consuming hedonism, utter sterility. How can any of that be considered a greatest good? The core of the final shape is improvement. Consider the virus, my friend, the parasite, the predator. These things that exist only by taking from others. To these things, improvement may well entail causing greater and greater harm to others, not out of malice, but as a simple fact of existence. When you eradicate an illness, are you stamping out a microscopic final shape? Should we care less for the final shape of a disease simply because it is smaller than us, or because it does us harm? We have all studied our histories. We know what we are capable of, what we have done. What if the nihilists, redolent, accepting, are right, and our final shape is our own destruction? Are you seriously considering the words of a fringe group of self-flagellating pessimists? This is pure nihilistic indulgence, abdication of responsibility. The existence of past evil does not invalidate future good. Should we deny what we can do because of what we have done? We, the penitent, have asked similar questions and reached our own answer. We have survived unimaginable suffering, even at one another's hands. The gardener encourages our growth and improvement day by day. Who better to understand the struggles of others and guide them out of those miserable warrens into the light of day? Who could help the whole universe to be better than they are, just as we are always striving to be better tomorrow than we are today? Who could help them, and they will go on to help others? We could help them, and they would go on to help others. The good we do can compound, just as the evil has in the past. And yet, we, the first chosen of the gardener, cannot agree on our own way. The gardener offers us no guidance, no principles with which to use the gifts it gives us, no reassurance for the doubts that plague us, no answers for our questions. Why have we been chosen? What does the gardener, in its power and wisdom, not achieve perfection itself? If my garden was not meant to be destroyed, why did it not stop the invaders? And why does it allow its gifts to be misused? It did not correct the profusion, the bountiful, the swarm on their path to their great fatal error. It did not stop the conqueror's primacy sovereign from using the gifts it granted for subjugation. Are we to accept that these two were meant to happen? If you reject the notion that destruction can be a final shape, how are we to accept the gardener allowed us to make such grievous mistakes? Even after all these millennia, there is much we do not understand about the gardener. Perhaps we will not understand until we have achieved the final shape for ourselves. And when we have reached the final shape, will it all make sense? Would all be able to live in a universe where people act as they have always acted, for the self-evident good, where evil does not exist because we do not allow it, where all are aligned without suffering or doubt. This isn't like you, my friend. I'm coming to see you. All will be well. That's the end of their correspondence.
Holy shit, Myth. Uh, shit. Uh,
So that was a lot.
yeah. Okay. So let me get this straight. Okay. I'm going to use your idea. Start with the note. This is what we know.
Yeah.
Clearly these two people are having not contradictory, maybe contradictory, different ideas on what the final shape should be.
Yes.
On what path. Sorry, I'm going to readjust here in my chair because I'm going to. This is elbows on knees shit. Clearly, these two are. I mean, and the shit they mention in this, like whole groups have been wiped out because of this. This idea of like what the final shape should be, and I love. Okay, so on the one side, I'm Henry. That's what he is now. Henry's thoughts of like the final shape should be self-evident. Like if it is the final shape, like it should just be like we shouldn't have to like correct people on their idea of it. That logic is I'm sorry, that's perfect logic. If the final shape is meant to be, if that is the end all be all of a universe, it should be self-evident. It should be like it like you should just be given the tools to like play with it or to play, and then the final shape, like you on your own terms, should come to an understanding of what the final shape is. That logic is, I I'm sorry, I gotta agree with him. That's fucking amazing. Um, but Rebecca here, I don't know, man. Rebecca sounds a little nuts.
Well, they each touch on a couple of things. I am with you. I like the idea of like, okay, if this truly is the purpose of the universe, then it should like once it's explained to somebody, they should just be like, "Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
What
duh.
else could it be?"
Exactly.
And the fact that that isn't the case.
Well, and like the different ideas that Henry brings up about like, well, yeah, of course my garden burned. Like its purpose was to burn for the final shape.
With that, with the idea of, because we kind of, I can kind of see how their thought patterns are going here, but we start out with, I'll use the same names. We'll start out with Rebecca being like, look, if we see suffering somewhere and we have the power to stop it, and we assume the final shape is supposed to be the greatest good for the universe possible,
That's
then,
an assumption there. Like that's
well, that seems to be her theology. This is as
yeah.
much a conflict between like theologies and
Yeah.
ideologies.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Uh,
is.
and so from her perspective, she's saying the final shape is the greatest good that can happen to the universe as a whole. That means that if we see suffering somewhere, we are, and it's within our power to stop it, we are duty bound to do something about it.
Oh my god, dude, that's straight out of the Declaration of Independence.
I'm kind of, yeah.
Those with the power, those with the power. Oh god, I can't remember how it's worded. I we just watched oh, what's the movie with Nicolas Cage?
National Treasure.
National Treasure. We watched that the other day, and he said like part of the line in there. He talks about how like the people if somebody has the ability to correct a wrong, they not only should do it, but they have the responsibility
Yeah.
to do it. Like they should be there to correct the wrong. Like that's straight up. Oh god, that's elegant. That's I don't know now. Who do I believe now? But then the counterpoint of like consider the virus, the parasite, the predator. They literally exist just to destroy.
Mm-hmm.
A virus doesn't know that it's destroying something. It's just doing what it's programmed to do at a subconscious level, at a biological subconscious level. A virus is just being a virus. That's all it can do. That's all it knows how to do. Same thing with a parasite. Like it doesn't know that it's destroying something. It's just doing what it's programmed to do. Like, and then that idea of like when if you're eradicating it, are you not just stamping out a microscopic final shape? That one was like holy shit. Like
Yeah.
that's some meta world shit. Like I don't. You're not wrong, but holy shit.
And I think for our discussion, as well as for anyone that's maybe like struggling to fit in, wrap their head around it, replace the word final shape with purpose.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Like the purpose of a
Of the
bacteria, of a
yeah.
virus, is to feed and multiply. And it has completed its purpose when it is able to do that successfully, uninterrupted.
Yep.
But unfortunately, that means the death of whatever its host is. So the theological battle here is like, well, if we want the most good for everything in the universe, we can't ignore the microscopic things just because they're too small to see or because they may harm other things.
Right.
Because their most good comes at the cost of someone else's, best outcome. And that this is where Henry starts to get in on the idea of like, maybe that is the final shape. Maybe just letting things go uninterrupted, and if they destroy each other, they destroy each other,
That's just
is
how
their
it was going to happen.
purpose.
Yeah, that's just what was supposed to happen.
And in some ways, I can see this as being that first little nugget of sword logic starting.
Well, and that's so but then to think of it on the opposite side, right? To think of it on from Rebecca's side of saying, well, we're seeing a destruction of something, so how can our final shape not be the protection of that something?
Right.
That's dude, this is some this is some shit, myth.
So the
Holy
other
shit.
thing that we can see from this, and we'll see what Ido also has to provide us. But the other thing we can see from this correspondence is there have been multiple thought processes and ideologies around what the final shape might be. They name a couple
Yeah.
of other
Yep.
groups, the nihilists, nihilist slash redolent slash accepting was one group. The others
The
were the
profusion,
profusion
bountiful
slash
swarm,
bountiful, yeah, conquerors slash
conquerors.
primacy.
Yep.
So like it
So these
looked,
are multiple groups that have been wiped out.
yeah, just like I think
Thinking
throughout
thinking on
history.
that's what I'm thinking too. I mean they and even even after all these millennia, there's still much we do not understand about the gardener. Perhaps we will not understand until we have achieved the final shape for ourselves. I'm assuming speaking for either their individual groups or their individual person. Like
Yeah, maybe
that's
both.
Maybe both. Yeah. So yeah, this is
So the other pieces of
this is
info
breaking my brain,
here
Myth.
that I want to latch on to, A, the Traveler has never spoken to them either.
Nope.
Like in the very first race, or at least by their approximation, the first race that has ever been blessed with its gifts, it has still never given them any kind of direction or anything. The other thing that I want to key in on is this talk of the observatory. And the observatory seems to be,
Oxa.
I would say very similar, probably more sophisticated than the Oxa machine, where
That's what
it's,
I mean, it's all about predictions, and
yep.
I'm curious if the Scions aren't part of this original. No, they couldn't have been. There's no way that the Scions are part of this original race.
Now, I mean, it so so far predates them that I wouldn't
Right.
imagine they are, unless there's some like, well, no, like we know, as far as we know, I guess this whole society was condensed into the Witness.
Into the Witness. Yep, that's the logic I'm using right now, is saying that there's no way that this could be the Scions.
Yeah, but at one point they had access to this future seeing machine, and originally, as Henry points out, like, doesn't that just see possibilities? Like, not the future, but just some of the futures that might happen. And Rebecca is saying, no, that's like, we've gotten it narrowed down to the point where when we observe something, it's guaranteed to happen.
Yeah.
And part of me, the way she worded that, I'm assuming this is a she. Again, we've assigned our own
I
names to
I was
these.
going to
Who
say
knows?
I'm
Uh,
seeing RS and HNW. So HNW is Henry Winkler.
okay.
And that's official now. RS, I keep coming back to Ray Snyder. We're changing that to Ray. Rebecca's now Ray Snyder. So we've got Ray Snyder and Henry Winkler. That's
we
what's happening here.
we are not changing the name for the sake of not confusing our listeners. We picked one, we're sticking to it.
I know Ray should be D Snyder, but to have a conversation between D Snyder and Henry Winkler, that'd be awesome. About the purpose of the universe. Oh, the Fonz and was that Twisted Sister? I think that's Twisted Sister. I'm gonna get corrected and slapped in the back of the head in about 20 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah. But so the way that it was worded about, let me find it exactly. Where is the observatory? So we have made improvements. The glass mines trim the excess branches. What we see now are the strongest paths, and this line in particular is the one that got me. And in the seeing, they become true.
I think that's just a self fulfilling, like it just happens to be the strongest path. So when it happens, they're like, oh, okay, so this is it's supposed to happen. I don't I don't think it's a straight up like, well, we saw it, so now it will happen.
See, I'm seeing this as potentially a Schrodinger's situation.
Oh,
So
sure,
the
sure.
the whole thing with Schrodinger's cat is, the cat is, again, this didn't actually happen. This is just a thought experiment. Do not do this.
Do not
Uh
put your cats in boxes
yeah, the
with
cat
no
is put in a
holes.
box with a, I forget exactly, but it's like a vial of poison. Uh and if you close the box, because you do not know if the cat is alive or dead, you can consider that it is in both states until you open the box and observe whether it is alive or dead. And by observing, you have cemented its state in the universe. And before your observation, it could have been either or a combination of both in the
I,
quantum realm of physics.
I see the logic you're applying to this, since they call this thing the observatory, and they say in the seeing they become true. Okay,
Right.
I'm following your logic there now.
The way that they're presenting it there makes me think that, like, if they were not actively hunting out these futures and observing them,
They
the
just wouldn't
act,
happen.
yeah, like, or they might happen differently, but the act of observing is cementing them into their reality. as however they've been observed at that point in time.
This shit is deep, dude. We haven't
It
even
is.
this. I was so convinced we're gonna make it through this book tonight. That ain't happening.
It ain't happening.
Well, let's see what Ido has to say about all this.
Yep. So let's take a look at Ido. So she has a couple of notes here. She keys into a couple of different words and phrases here. So the first note before her write up is that the final shape is no longer described with a tyranny semantic cluster. HN and RS continue to use that structure to describe other concepts, potentially reflective of semantic narrowing. The next one she has a note about is this consensus that's mentioned, and says, given the terminology, this consensus might have been some sort of governing body or a source of philosophical guidance. And the third one that she has a note on, let me find where it appears in the actual text here. We're having to go off the paper book because this is not in Ishtar, so you have to bear with me just a little
Flipping back
bit.
and forth. The glass mines.
Glass mines. So, in reference to the glass mines, she says, from the context, some sort of computational assistant. There appears to be some etymological overlap with the names of Vex mines. Something to investigate later, perhaps.
That was my other thought there when they mentioned glass mines. Was like, are they using a what is it? Infinite forest? Are they using some type of machine like that?
Maybe.
I mean, those are the only two references we have is the Oxa and the Infinite Forest for future predictions.
Right. Are they perhaps the true inventors of the Vex?
Oh my God. What if the Vex weren't actually part of this world? Like, or no, sorry. Our original thought with the Vex was that they are they are part of the math, the
Right.
algorithms that exist for particles to exist. That they exist as the math in between spaces. And that they just happen to be from another world. And then when this universe, or from another universe, and then when this universe was created, it was another version of said universe that then paracausality got introduced to. But since those things existed before paracausality, they didn't know how to understand it. So, yeah.
Which is still
maybe
very
maybe
possible.
that right. Maybe I mean, with how old these beings are, they could be the progenitors. They could have created the Vex in an effort to like understand the final shape or create a machine to understand the final shape.
Yeah. Although they
This is
also
nuts.
then mention that in the observatory, one of the like terrible things they've seen is a machine plague carving their prediction machines into moons. So
that's that's very much calling out the Vex
yeah,
without even knowing
so
that it's called the Vex.
it seems maybe similar technology, but not the same, perhaps. Or
I kind of want to break that down real quick too. So,
yeah,
um, cities turning on themselves in a frenzy of self-destruction. That's got to be the hive.
possibly. Yeah.
The krill. Well, I guess the krill turned hive. How like
Yeah, I could see that
the
stuff.
one turned on another.
Yeah.
Children offering up parents in superstitious sacrifice to bloodied gods. That's the fucking hive. That's that was their father's
Yeah.
familiar. That's to the
Yeah.
worm gods. That's 100% the hive.
You could
An entire
maybe argue the cabal there too.
Possibly, yeah, absolutely. An entire people who would boil off their own atmosphere rather than let their neighbors enjoy fresh air. I, that might be the cabal. They're probably crazy enough to do something like that. Great waves drowning worlds. That was
That could be
the
fundament.
that could have been fundament like that was supposed to be that was what was told to the sisters was going to
Right.
happen, and then turns out that was a lie.
But maybe
Um,
in some version
in one
of
of these
history it did happen.
exactly bodies which do not decompose for everything down to the very bacteria has died as well. Is that us?
I don't think so, because
I
there
can't tell if that's us or not. If that's
no,
a light bearer,
because I mean, there's plenty of
or is that
other
still the
things.
hive?
I don't know that these all directly relate to anything we're familiar with.
I don't think they are. I just in my brain I'm equating these to things only because machine plagues carving their prediction in machines into
Right,
moons.
that's very
That's
Vex.
that's literally the Vex. That's all they do. That's what's happening to Nessus right now. That's what happened to Mercury. It's sort of still happening to Venus. Like, yeah.
So here's a thought. I guess an observation and then a thought. The first observation, the line below that, they talk about your garden destroyed as the observatory saw it, so it came to pass. The garden they're referring to, I think, is the one from the first entry,
Yep.
the worlds that they
Yep.
terraformed. And HS, or Henry as we're calling him, um, says that as I saw the ruin of my great work, my thoughts traced a different path. If the final shape is the greatest good, uh, that my garden could be destroyed, suggests that it was not a final shape. Perhaps the ships which came to burn it down understood its final shape better than I. This tells me two things. It stated that in that first entry, I was talking about like, hey, the worlds around this derelict ship that this first entry was found in, that very first report, were all like bombed out.
Yeah.
Uh, and we're seeing that Henry here is saying, yeah, alien ships came, or I guess we're assuming alien because if they were of their race, like why would they do that?
I
And why
mean,
would they not mention
look
it?
at modern look at the modern world that we
Sure,
exist in. We
sure.
definitely could destroy ourselves 1,000 times over.
Well, it doesn't sound like it's a case of like
Internal.
destroying themselves.
Yeah.
It seems odd that they wouldn't be like, and the nihilist group came and destroyed my planet, or
Yep.
and it's just that ship.
The ships. Yeah, yeah. They keep mentioning the ships came to
Right.
destroy. So it does seem like it is an outside or alien force coming to that system and destroying the system.
Which tells us that there is at least one other uh advanced species that has the ability to space travel and like nuke
Annihilate
planets.
worlds. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's yeah.
So that's an interesting like that's out there. Um the other thing I want to touch on, and this is we'll see if we get any more evidence to this theory or not. But we know Unveiling is written by the witness.
Correct.
We know that we know some of the events from Asa's vision, and we're seeing some more in-depth little snippets of that progenitor race here. If we think about Unveiling, the general story of Unveiling is there was in a world that you can't imagine, time, in a time that didn't exist yet, essentially. There was a gardener and a winnower, and the gardener would go through and plant worlds, would plant life, and the winnower would come and, you know, separate the wheat from the waft. I forget what the term
Yes.
was. Uh, I'm wondering if there is a possibility that we had operated under the assumption that that first bit of unveiling was that civilization slash the witnesses interpretation of a vision of how the universe came to be.
Right.
What if that is the witness kind of being a little manipulative and also waxing poetic about the exploits of the progenitor race? What if there never was a
Ooh.
vision? What if the gardener in this case is the progenitor race using the gardener's tools to go forth and try and sow life across the universe, but it always comes to ruin, either via other
Dude,
ships or
that
via
would
what the
literally
observatory
drive
sees.
that would drive a society insane.
I
Especially
mean,
if they're trying to find. I mean, duh. Hi, we're seeing that play out right now. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right.
so not concrete by any means, but I could maybe see an argument for that being the case. But to continue on with what Ido has to say about this latest entry, so she has those couple little snippets about specific terms and things, and then she goes on to say, "My cross-check for the identification code in Scribe Archive XI24A proved quite fruitful. The trail of data crumbs led me to a databank retrieved from a rain ship originally downed on Mercury. The Saint and Osiris were kind enough to share it with me, along with a pot of tea. Our conversation was most illuminating. I understand that Mercury was a scorched wasteland before the great machine's arrival. When it had finished, humans could walk unprotected on its surface. What wonders the great machine can work! I can only hope that Mercury will return from the witness's clutches, released as Titan was, so that I may see it for myself. I hear that, thanks to Sol engulfing its sky, one can study without pause, or at least until exhaustion prove too greater than the desire to learn. Perhaps I could catch up on some light reading. In any case, the concept of the final shape has worn many faces. From your encounters with the disciples of the witness, we know that they all had their own understanding of this concept, that they all saw what they wished to see in it. But this communication log here appears to predate all of them. If I am correct, the parties communicating are among the witness's precursors. Then this may be the concept's original form. We can see in this log that HN and RS, at least, were preoccupied with the concept of a higher purpose. They sought the final shape, but at the time of this exchange, they did not agree on what it was or how to achieve it. RS speaks of how the final shape will prevent suffering and maximizing benefit. HN expresses concern over the methods of achieving this. I notice, however, that they never speak of communicating directly with the species they discuss. There is no consideration of consulting others or even if they are capable of reaching the final shape for themselves and others. The most pressing matter in their discussion is if they should or should not intervene, and to a lesser extent, whether some coercion is acceptable for the greater good. I understand that, granted the blessings of the great machine, Elixni and humanity both have fallen into similar traps. The certainty of one's own rightness, the arrogance, the belief that receiving the great machine's gifts confers superiority to others. Given the length of time between this record and Scribe Archive XI24A, it appears that the great machine stayed with their civilization for millennia. If it had stayed on Reese for that long, if humanity's golden age had continued unending, would we also have fallen victim to the same mentality? Lost sight of others as equals and seen them as animals to be herded? I think I prefer where we have come to stand, together, walking the same streets beneath the shadow of the great machine. And that's the end of Ido's notes.
I mean that. Jesus, this shit is deep, myth. I mean that's the question, right? Like what if the traveler had? I mean, what if the collapse had never happened?
Right?
You know, I mean, would we still be living in that golden age? Would we have finally achieved this level of like benevolence that we're looking down on other things, on other Jesus, myth? This is
Yeah, it's an interesting idea of like this assumed superiority because they were chosen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is honestly kind of something I'd never thought about before, that thematically in game, I don't know if superiority is the correct term for how like guardians treat civilians, but
It almost
um
is.
I mean,
It's almost. It's not quite to the level that we're seeing with what happened with, or what we're seeing happen in these entries with the witnesses race to things around them. Like they're literally
right.
like creating whole planets and whole systems and going, "Oh, neat, it burned. Huh, that sucks," and walk away from it. Like they're literally they're the kid with the fucking magnifying lens playing God with the anthill, like watching it burn. I mean, granted, they're not actively burning it. They're just sitting on the. I guess they're the guy watching the kid with the magnifying lens, watching him burn ants and just going, maybe don't do that. And or like one side is saying maybe don't do that, and the other side is like, hey, let him be. He's doing it. He's doing the right thing. Dude, this is what happens when you live for too long and you think you are God. That is what's happening here. This species, this pre-witness species, is thinking they're God.
Yeah. I mean, but like you said, when they are literally sowing life on other planets, like
Yeah.
to that life, that is what they are.
How are you not God? Like that's holy shit, myth.
It's a wild idea.
These this is nuts, Smith. This is
Now, as far as the soul system goes, I think we can pretty definitively say what would have happened if our golden age just kept going, even for another like 200-300 years. Um, Clovis Bray would have fucked up everything.
oh yeah, yeah. Nope, you're
Like,
right. You're right. I
like
forgot. Egotistical, maniacal,
yeah,
asshole,
he
Clovis Bray.
was he was already like
I.
he was already on a different level than even these people are.
You're not wrong.
So yeah, Vex would have invaded. It would have been an all-out war between Vex and Exos, and Clovis would have blown up a couple moons probably.
Easily. So
Yeah, it
planets.
wouldn't have been good.
I think he would have ended whole planets without even thinking
Oh,
about it. Like
yeah,
that would have been destruction from within. That would have
yes,
100% been
absolutely.
destruction from within. Though I have to laugh. Clovis Bray wanted his name to be remembered, and he kind of got what he wanted.
He did. He
Maybe
did.
some monkey paw wish happening there.
Well, he's a giant head now, so
I mean, Ahamkara act in mysterious ways. If it turns out like the way he found darkness was like, we know that darkness whispered to him like the K1 on,
right.
but if we find some entry of where like he comes back with like, oh yes, I tossed that silly bone into the ocean, like I would just, I mean it's bullshit. It's
Yeah,
bullshit is what it is, Myth.
yeah,
You
you're
can't
not
just
wrong,
explain everything away with wish magic. Or
but you
can
can
you?
though.
You totally can. That's the fucked up part. Like, you totally can. Okay, next entry.
Okay, so
Possibly final entry for the night.
yeah,
Because these are
likely the final one for tonight.
these are long and they break my brain.
So the next entry, this is Scribe Archive XI149D. This is a emergency transmission that was retrieved from Spider's collection from a long-range communications beacon that had been disabled. Origin unknown. The keyword that turns up in this, or that brought this transcript up, is witness. So the transcript is we don't have particular speakers like we did in the other one. There is no RS or HN or anything. It's just paragraphs. So this transcript, this emergency transmission, goes like this. I learned of its arrival scarcely 3 marks ago. As my anchor slumbered in the belly of this ancient outpost, I drifted into the new sphere webbing and was swept up in delight. Millions of thought forms sharing the news, the revelation spreading from leading to trailing edge until even I was buoyed by the tide of joy. First contact with a stranger, a friend to be, a chance for the hazy margins of our new sphere to grow, to encounter new thoughts and expand with new richness. It had been so long since we encountered the whisper, nightmare, predatory memoplex. We had grown naive without the reminder of fear. From the leading edge came a current. It swept through our new sphere. A spark and dry brush, ink and water, hope curdling in an instant. The emanations were confusing and fragmentary. I could not parse them all. Planets stolen from space, ripe fruit plucked from orbit, structures dissected and reassembled by thousand-fingered hands, anchors and selves unraveled into first principles, sectioned into wafer-thin slices. There was only one voice at first, a cry of joy at the meeting of a new mind, twisted to fear and pain. Help me. Chaos in the new sphere. The placid surface churned into white froth. Thought forms scattered in their thousands, fleeing up the webbing strand and finding doom at every junction. Help me. The stranger, ruin, predatory memoplex engulfed our new sphere in a moment's idle fancy. Our thought forms were atomic in comparison. We never stood a chance. As each of my people were found and taken apart and reassembled, a new voice joined the chorus. Help me. My people died in their thousands. Thoughts and selves wisping away into nothingness, thousands of years of memory no more than smoke in the wind. Help me. Here in this outpost, I am apart from the rest, tethered at the trailing edge, furthest from its lamprey maw, not far enough to escape, not near enough to help. Help me. 1,000 emanations from 1,000 minds blending into a single scream. The same scream every time, again and again and again. When we untethered ourselves from their anchors, we knew that we as a people would not be divided again. No matter how far we traveled in real space, the vastness of our new sphere, webbing, home, was but a thought away. Our fears, our hopes, our dreams, our longings, our triumphs, we would always be able to reach out and know one another. Where one was weak, another could be strong. We could share each other's joy and bear each other's pain, but that sound, help me. I am ashamed to admit I could not bear it a moment longer. I severed, exiled, imprisoned myself. I regretted it the moment I did. We were dying, but we were dying together. And my unimaginable cowardice will not assure my survival, only a delay in my execution. The ruin, predatory memoplex, witness, knows the pattern of our oscillations. I can hear it, still plucking the tattered edges of the new sphere webbing. Why do you hide? The witness will find me, and when it does, there will be nothing and no one. I believe I would die alone in this abandoned outpost. But I found a crate, forgotten, deep within a dusty storeroom. Emergency beacons, produced and stored in another time, one when we knew the fear of death. We see you. To you, receiver, inheritor, hoped for future, I offer what little I know. We are dead, but not unmade. We are ossified, temporized, reiterated, perpetuated, anatomized, finalized. I do not know if this will help. I do not know. I do not. But perhaps you will prevail. Come now. Don't be afraid. This is not a call for help. It is too late. There is no one left. The witness cannot be stopped. This is our last proof. We, the Neosis, existed. And that is the end of the transcript.
What in the fuck is this? What? Jesus, Smith. All right. Start with first question. What the hell is this symbol running through all of this? This little upside. There's this upside down U throughout this entire
Yeah.
thing. What is it? Is it just like their version of a comma, or like their version of a slash? Because like the first one,
yeah.
First contact with a stranger, upside down U, friend to be. So it's like it's trying to figure out which one it is, and then like it keeps saying new sphere, upside down U, webbing. So is it like it's trying to figure out which one of those words to use? The whisper, nightmare, predatory, memoplex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we look at this from a mathematical standpoint, because I have seen the same symbol used in mathematics.
I'm glad you have.
Essentially, it is the symbol for intersect. It is the
Oh, okay.
representation of the intersection of two sets. Um, in logical terms, you can just replace it with the word and.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Okay.
so it's like thoughts flowing about
See,
what the
and I
representation of
and
this
I
thing
thought I
is.
was the math person here. I you win.
Because I knew a symbol.
Yes. Yes. But oh my god, dude, is so I mean, essentially this is the last entry of a species being
Yeah,
consumed by the witness.
and
The neos the noesis noesis
noesis. Yeah,
in
yeah,
Noesis.
yeah. I think I said neosis before, but I think it is noesis. Um, yeah. So that this is the last survivor of this noesis people. That is, and it looks like, based on what I'm understanding, they have uh, this tether, this like mind. I don't want to say hive mind, but it's like all their minds are
Almost
connected to a neural network.
almost like the ark.
Yeah, very similar to the arc. If the arc spanned across like the entire
The entire
universe.
system. Yeah. Oh, universe. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because well, I
Yeah.
mean, they say no matter how far we go, it'll only be a thought away. Um, so I mean, maybe they just hadn't found the limits yet, uh, but yeah, there's as if the arc were this psychic force that connected all of these peoples, and so this last person, this last noesis, is experiencing the death of every other member of its species as the witness is slowly like doing whatever it's doing.
Consuming. I like that's the doing whatever it's doing is what's fucking with me. Like consuming, eradicating, destroying. I don't.
So I
I'm
do
not
want to
sure.
say I don't think consuming, um, because they reference a couple of things that are happening here. Um, they say, we are dead but not unmade. We are
Yeah.
ossified, temporized, reiterated, perpetuated, anatomized, finalized. Um, and he talks about, they, I suppose, uh, talk about structures are dissected and reassembled by thousand-fingered hands. Anchors themselves unraveled into first principles and sectioned into wafer-thin slices.
Like
This almost
that's the witnesses like what we saw him do to the
the
oh god
worms.
the fire team. Oh, the
Oh,
worms
and the
too.
fire team, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My envisioning of this is like those bisections of the different
Yeah,
species that
yeah,
are
yeah.
aboard the
Yep,
pyramid ships that
yep.
are like encased in amber.
That's exact.
Um,
I think that's more exactly what this is.
because
The
they
whole
talk about,
ossified,
yeah,
temporized, like to me, that's like they're being and then anatomized and finalized. Like they're literally just being set. You know
I
what I mean? Like that, like
yeah.
they like whatever bits of them are left is just being set into place as like this is a statue in my observatory.
Yeah, and it almost that gives me the idea of like the witness is studying them in a way.
Oh yeah,
The and it says like anatomized. I think like the witness is in a weird way like running autopsies on them to
yeah,
like
yep,
discover how they work, I guess.
yeah.
Um
At an what an atomic level?
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a chilling recount from a species that, like I said, it is too late. There is no one left. The witness cannot be stopped. But this is our proof that we, the Noesis, existed.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Is that going to be our final words here too?
Uh, let's say let's go
Sorry,
over.
our final words in the sense of the Guardian, not like for tonight for this recording. I
Oh,
mean, is the Guardian going to have a recording like this?
who
Is
knows?
humanity going to have a fucking recording like this? Like
Certainly
that's
hope
it.
not.
Like shit. Like do we fail the final shape? Shit. Well,
uh,
let's see what Ido has to say, and then
yeah.
we'll call that an entry for the night.
Yep. So, Ido has notes on a couple of entries again. So, Memoplex, she says, is a self-reinforcing group of informational units which consumes lesser concepts, a predatory idea. The Noesis seem to have used this term to describe any serious threat to their minds. This first usage appears to refer to a past threat which the Neosis survived. Oh, that brings up a good point. The past threat that they refer to, it has been so long since we encountered the Whisper, the Nightmare, the predatory Memoplex.
You tell me that's not fucking oh
Nezarec?
god, Nezarec, and
Yeah,
I almost forgot his name there for a second. I started to say Rourke. That's Nezarec 100%. So the fact
that's
that they
gotta be.
survived Nezarec, but you're talking about a species that's connected by thought.
Right.
Like that's, I mean, no shit that would be somebody that would attack them. Nezarec is oh such a beautiful creation in my opinion, but
Yeah.
that's my psycho mind talking.
Yeah, so without any truly substantiating evidence, but we know Nezarec feeds off of like fear. He would probably see a psionically connected civilization as prime feeding grounds.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
mean look how he saw the arc. I
right.
mean he fed the snot out of that place.
So, but it appears they pushed him back, or maybe he left because he found, greener pastures somewhere. Who knows? Or maybe he was the disciple that led to the witness coming here.
Oh my god.
Uh, unknown, but
I
I
mean
think that's
that would
got to
make
be.
sense, right? Like cuz he was yeah, no, that would absolutely make sense that he would be the disciple cuz the disciples always lead the way for the witness. Like
Seems to be, yeah.
we even see this with Callus when he's trying to like call himself a disciple, which I did he actually achieve discipleness?
Nezarec,
No, Callus.
Callus. Eh, I mean,
Herald of the witness.
yeah,
He doesn't become disciple. He becomes
yeah,
herald of the witness.
and I just like I think he
He's kind of a
considered
bitch.
himself one, but yeah, like all the interactions between him and the witness that I saw, where the witness was just like playing the game so that he could use
Using the
him.
shit out of
Yeah,
him. Like he was nothing. He was nothing to the witness. Like to me, the like Rourke was something to the witness. Like Savathun was something to the witness. Even Nezarek was something to. I mean, Nezarek had to have been something to the witness for the witness to have preserved whatever essence was left of
Right.
him in his own personal ship. Like these things were something to him. Callus was very much just a. It was a plaything. It was just like a whatever. I'm just going to use the piss out of you. And like to me, Callus's forces mean nothing to the witness.
Yeah.
Like
No, I
that's
agree.
what I mean. The fact that because I guess the only thing would have been no, it's all using. He even used them to create the tormentors,
Mm-hmm.
which we now know evolve into whatever this new shit is.
Well,
Oh
we
my
don't
god,
we
these
don't know that they evolve into it,
I mean they
uh,
look
but
like
they look very similar.
they look really similar, man. Like I'm gonna assume that that the witness is inside the pale art using whatever technology he's got in there, making these new things, the subjugators and the bats with guns. Oh my
Yep.
god! If you,
The dread.
we're the dread. What the fuck is this shit, dude? I know I'm breaking out for a second, but if y'all get a chance, go check out the final shape thing that came out this last Tuesday. It's good. Good trailer.
It is. It is. But so to continue Ido's notes here, now that we coming back, um just mentions like the images of the witness's attack on the traveler and what it did to the coalition ships is fresh in my mind, as I'm sure it is yours. As she's kind of reading through the
Is that where she's talking about the vivisection? Yep,
yeah, the
yep,
like
yep. Into wafer
being put
thin,
into
thin
wafer thin.
slices. Yep,
Yep.
that's exactly what's. Yep.
Next note she says is the witness appeared as a highly intrusive foreign concept in the transmission, which was able to cannibalize all overlapping concepts. Again, it consumed, inspected, did whatever it did in the destruction of this entire civilization, seemingly through
Their own network,
their network. Yeah.
their own little like webbing, noosphere webbing.
Um, and then there's a couple areas in there near the end where Ido is just kind of confirming for us. This is another intrusive foreign concept. I believe this is the witness itself communicating directly to the recorder. And those are the little lines of like, we see you, why do you hide? Those kinds of things.
Well, and I think she's right in the one before it too. I think the witness inserted its own name into the minds of this person.
Oh, that is very
where it
possible.
where it says the ruin, predatory memoplex, and the witness in all caps. That's the one
Yeah.
she's referencing there. I think the witness just inserts itself, and then every point after that, the witness is just in all caps. Like even that point, it just says witness in all caps, and then every other time the witness is mentioned, it's just the witness in all caps. So
Now,
I think the witness itself inserted itself into the
yeah.
thought pattern and said, "This is what I am. I am overriding whatever you were trying to call me."
Now that
Which
that
holy
makes
shit!
that makes a lot of sense. That's also very scary.
That's scary as shit.
Oh boy.
And she has one last note there.
Yep, she has one last note. This is in regards to the different descriptors of what's happening to the people. The ossified, temporized, reiterated, perpetuated, finalized. And she just says significant semantic overlap. I believe the total blended concept is related to the final shape.
Yep.
But so Ido's full notes after that go on to say the spider has acquired many items of interest over his lifespan, but precious few may be accessed freely, even in the best of times. The worst of times, on the other hand, seem to have inspired some conditional generosity. Reluctant as I was to request his assistance, the information I have gleaned has more than paid dividends. And I love scratched out is ugh, that's something he would say.
I love that. It's literally like it's written there and it's looked like she scratched it out. It's so good.
Yeah. But she continues. The contents of this beacon proved quite challenging to transcribe. It seems to operate on a similar principle to your sensoriums, but it directly transmits concepts rather than inducing sensory hallucinations. Some of the concepts showed significant semantic overlap, though whether due to the nature of the data, age related degradation, or the recorder's emotional state, I cannot say. Now, from the content of this record, I believe we may draw a few conclusions about the witness's methodology. It is capable of disassembling mind and body, then somehow reassembling them. It did not destroy the Noesis, but unmade and then finalized them. Curiously, this account describes a markedly different approach compared to similar recorded attacks. The conquest of the Nuesis was swift, almost surgical, and remarkably thorough. The witness does not seem to cultivate a disciple from among their number, or left anyone who could tell the tale, yet it did not simply massacre them. Consider how the witness speaks to the Noesis in the recording. It is almost gentle. There is no comparable communication during the whirlwind. I reviewed all the information about the Noesis I could find and discovered this. The Noesis never encountered the great machine. It is the presence. Is it the presence or the absence of the great machine which determines the witness's approach? Did the witness ever speak to humanity during the collapse? Did it offer comfort as it did to this doomed Noesis? I need more information. And that's the end of her notes.
That's the thing I want to key in here is those last two paragraphs, right? This species never encountered the great machine. So the traveler has never seen this other species that was consumed by the witness in this account. And then what is the determination there? Like, why did the witness approach it in such a gentle, like, come, don't be afraid, be part, like, and didn't eradicate them, right? Like, didn't just completely destroy them, like, unmade and then finalize them. Like, why is the witness determining that's what needs to happen to this species?
So here's my thought on that. The witness so he unmade them and then remade them into a quote unquote finalized form.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that as the witness unmade them, studied them, and reassembled them in what he believed their final shape should be.
Oh my
In what
God.
he believed their
Dude,
whatever
that's
would fulfill
psychotic.
their end purpose in the witness's point of view.
That's psychotic, myth.
Oh, it is. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying I believe that's what happened.
That's fucking psychotic. We've gone
Now,
past the point of being a little shit. We've gone to fucking psychotic now, myth.
now I think the reason why that is the witness's approach to the Noesis is because they were not a group that were touched by the traveler, and because it is a group that was not touched by the traveler, I think the witness deems them savable or
Oh,
redeemable.
interesting. Since paracausality never touched them, they have no notion of paracausality, like
They're still following whatever their natural process
pure. Yeah,
was.
yeah, 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 yeah. So then that should be so in the witness's idea of the garden game, they should be finalized. They should be culled that way, and oh man, that makes more sense now. I don't know why that makes more sense, but it does.
But something that has been in contact with the traveler is now outside of its natural evolution. And in the witness's eyes, as it's communicated to us many times, it sees the traveler's intervention as a perversion of the life it
Yeah.
has touched.
Yeah.
And in that case, I think it sees us or whatever has been touched by the traveler not as something that needs to be saved, but as something that needs to be put down, needs to be put
Yeah.
out of its
Yeah.
misery.
Because it's been perverted by the
Right.
traveler's influence. Like the traveler has now uh, stuck his finger in our pie, and so now us being the pie needs to just be thrown the fuck out. Is what is essentially happening here.
Yeah, like we can never
We can
achieve
never
what the
be
witness
uncontaminated
determines as our final shape anymore. Because
because it's unknown now.
right.
Because paracausality is part of us now, or any race that the traveler has touched, because that paracausality is there. And it's weird to me to think of that as being, and maybe it's not paracausality, maybe it's just because the traveler. Because think of it from the other side. Think of it from the point of view of the worms and the hive. The traveler has, or the witness has no problems.
Right.
I say working with them. Do we know? He's got to be right, because that's how Oryx talked to and learned how to take. Yeah, no, he's
Yeah.
absolutely working with the
Well,
hive
and he sent Rook there to start the whole thing.
to start the whole thing. Exactly, to like, they were going to be touched by the traveler, and he was like, no, intersect. Let's
Yeah.
create this lie and corrupt the sisters and give them the worm. So yeah, so I don't think it's paracausality. That's he's truly thinking of this in terms of good and evil.
I
I
think
think
in a lot of ways.
I
Yeah.
think from the witness's point of view, anything that the traveler has touched really is unsavable. It's just it's outside of the realm of being saved in his. Oh my god, and that's why he keeps using the term salvation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, dude.
Now, all that is also to say that the witness is a enormous hypocrite when it
Oh my
comes
god,
to
yes.
fulfilling its own desires.
Yeah.
A la the krill, the hive, like it interfered with
Yeah.
the natural progression of a species. But I
Because the
think,
natural progression would have been to have been touched by the traveler. This is
well, I mean,
it's
I think
literally the two.
in its eyes, the natural progression would have been like the traveler wasn't there at all, and the krill just continued to
Just
exist in
continue to
whatever
krill
way
like
they did.
that was it. Like Osmium Court would have taken over or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, I see that too. I don't know, man. But again, we're coming back to the argument of Henry and Rebecca of like these things are being interfered with. Like, is it our duty to re-interfere with that? Is the traveler just? Do we look at the traveler like a virus? It's not necessarily like killing things. It's just growing more. Like it. I mean, that's
Right.
the definition of
Yeah.
cancer. Is an overgrowth of cells. So I mean, is the traveler a cancer?
I mean, I could see the witness arguing that. And
Like,
the other piece of this is not only is the witness hypocritical in its methods, but as Ido pointed out, it is terribly arrogant because
yeah.
it may consider its hypocrisy with the hive to be of little importance because everything in existence is so far beneath it.
Oh, sure, sure, sure.
Like, you
I mean
know,
that same argument we were seeing before of like, well, they've lived so long and they're immortals now. They're gods. They're creating other worlds. In that sense, things are beneath them.
right.
I mean, it's it's fucked up. It's
It
super
is.
shitty, but it's not illogical.
But
Oh my god, man, this is
so
well. That's halfway point.
that is the halfway point, and that is where we're going to stop for this episode. We will pick up with hopefully the remainder of the book for next episode. But
Holy
this has
shit.
been a lot already to chew on and mull over, and yeah,
I'm still gonna keep from reading it, mostly because I'm lazy, but partially because I want to be surprised next time too. I want it to be my
yeah,
first reaction to this, because my brain breaking in this first half of this just I had not opened this book until tonight, and so like I looked through the other stuff at the collection edition, was like, oh, this stuff is amazing, but I had not opened this book yet to read it, and now it's like, oh my god, this is nuts. So I'm gonna keep my surprise for everyone for next time.
yeah.
But yeah, so let's do some shout outs then.
Yeah, so we have a couple shout outs this time around. I say the first one comes to us from Apple Podcasts. Someone left a very kind 5-star review, so thank you for that. This is username BA2443, who says, I've enjoyed each episode. It's made me fall in love with this game more and more, learning about each story compiled into entertaining and engaging stories. As a hunter main whose look is inspired by Oryx after obtaining Touch of Malice, I wish you all well and to have more great regaling tales from all of this great lore. Also, continue to have fun with just a touch of malice until we are all taken. I am Oryx the Exo King.
I fucking love it. If I see you, I'm giving you an emote out in the world. If I see Oryx the Exo King, I'm definitely giving you a wave.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And we always like to hear that it's one of those things there's few things more rewarding than hearing that somebody else has like fallen back in love with the game from the stories that we're telling.
I love it.
Like that's just such a cool thing to help someone like revitalize a passion is awesome. So
Love it. Love it.
yeah. Uh so second shout out for this episode comes to us from our Gmail. Uh Funny enough, is very relevant to what we just went through in this episode. So they say, uh, y'all knocked the Kentark 3 out of the park. I love everything to do with the Black Garden, and when you guys talk about the trippy lore. No pressure, because I haven't acquired one myself yet, but are you guys planning to talk about the Entelechy lore book and all of Ido's findings on the Witness and Darkness? In
Done.
my
Checkbox.
yeah, we're working on it. In my opinion, that book is so crazy with so much big lore in there. Uh, it's got me really excited for what's coming. I'm just wondering. Again, no pressure. Keep up the good work as always. You guys are freaking amazing. Well,
Done.
thank you.
Check the box. It's
Yep,
happening.
we're
As
great minds think alike because we're
Yep.
working on it as we speak.
Done.
um, and that last one came to us from one Scarlet Shadow. So thank you for that.
I like it. I like it.
So last shout out for this episode, another Gmail, comes to us from Steel Zealot, and they say, "Hey guys, first off, love the show. I've reached out before about the Quicksilver Storm lore, but I do have to maybe note on a specific thing I noticed on my new Hunter playthrough. In the cutscene after the Callus fight, speaking to Lightfall's
Post Lightfall.
final
Yep.
fight,
Yep.
Zor noted the broken glass sight on the Kvostov rifle. It suddenly came to me that as the weapon is drawn, it has the same duplicate sway graphic as the Witness. As we wield darkness and apparently have a connection to the Witness through our ghost, is it possible that we wouldn't have been able to kill our ghost? We've risked ourselves for humanity many times over the years. Why hesitate now? Thanks again for all you guys do. A Strand Titan main with a Solar Hunter backup."
Okay, so this broke my brain again. When this was mentioned, we were trying to understand what they were talking about. And so Myth went and pulled up the cinematic that plays. And we were watching through it and we're like same duplicate sway graphic. What are we talking about? And then it hit me. This person is talking about the way the witness moves their hands and walks about, and like in the scene where it's like at the end of Witch Queen where you see his hands, it's almost like temporal.
Yeah, there's like the after image as it's moving.
Yeah, it's like when you can set your mouse settings super slow and you can see all the little mouse trails that it took. Our gun does that in that cutscene. It when it's sitting, we had to break it down frame by frame to see it. It's so quick. It's literally like maybe 4 frames. So the fact that first off, the fact that you saw this, holy shit, and they caught it. We had to watch it like 4 or 5 times to realize what you're saying. Kvostov sitting at our side is 2 guns. It's 2 Kvostovs sitting right on top of each other, and as we raise it, they raise temporally. It looks like it's a second gun coming in after it.
Yeah, you get a little just a frame or two of that like after image effect.
It fucked with me. It has officially fucked with my mind. I'm now convinced that the Witness prevented us from shooting our ghost.
Now, I'm going to approach this with a slightly more
Fanatical.
one may say pessimistic
Sure,
viewpoint.
sure.
The way that that is presented in game, and we both watched it multiple times.
Might just be my
Could it
flair.
have been intentional? 100%. It may have been an intentional choice to showcase something was going on there. I feel like the way it appeared though, the because when you if you look at it when the gun is down by your hip, because what they did is they superimposed the Kvostov, the like original Kvostov, into your guardian's hands for the cutscene because they didn't know what weapon. Everyone may be using a completely different weapon, and they didn't want to render a billion different versions of the cutscene. Uh, so they put Kvostov in your guardian's hands so that
Which is
everyone
odd
would
because
have the same gun.
they absolutely did that for Cade.
Well, it depends on if it's a in-engine cutscene or a pre-rendered cutscene.
Oh, sure, sure, sure.
If
Yep,
it's
yep,
pre-rendered, that it's just playing a movie at that
yep,
point.
yep.
If it's in-engine, then it's using the
It's
in-engine
using
game
whatever's in
models and
the
all of
yep,
that.
yep.
And I have
I
to
just remember the Cade
assume,
one because somebody like in the Cade one you
yeah,
one hand wield your weapon and there's a video of somebody wearing a chicken head from the Halloween and they raise a bow one handed.
yeah, yeah. So we see, I'm pretty sure there's a transition between in-engine and pre-rendered during that cutscene when our character raises the Kvostov rifle, and then the next clip is them looking down the scope. I am of the impression that that looking down the scope portion is when the pre-rendered cutscene kicks in. And so as
But
far
then
as like the
why have it impose the gun in engine and then
because
cut
they
to a cutscene?
because they saw they had our character. I don't know why they decided that's when the cutover was. Um, well,
I'm gonna be the conspiracy theorist on this one, and I'm gonna
and that's
say
fine.
it was
That's fine.
intentional, and that the witness took us over for just a second and just slowed it down and was like, "You can't shoot your ghost," and we were like, God."
I mean, 100% possible. I feel like if that were the case, they would have made a bigger. It would have been more obvious than like a
True,
frame of a
true,
dupe. And
true.
I think that's the thing that gets me more than anything.
It was just for that one frame as he raised it, and then
It
after that, it goes back to being a normal gun. Like
well,
while
it's
you're looking down the sight, it's not being all temporal or anything. Yeah,
it's that it was the one frame, and that when you pause it, it's not that they put an effect on the gun, it's that there's literally two models of the
yeah,
gun stacked on top of each other.
yeah.
Like it looks glitchy. It
It
looks
does
like a
look
bug.
glitchy. I tell you what, I'll go 70-30 on this. I'm gonna go 70, it's the witness. 30, it's a graphical error.
Yeah. I mean, I love the
Till
idea
proven
that it was
otherwise.
the witness. I do. And I could totally be wrong. Maybe it was intentional. That would be awesome, truly. But the fact that you caught it in the first place and like took us on this whole little rabbit hole
It's
adventure
so
is really
fast.
cool. So thank
We
you for
were
that.
literally like clicking over like frame by frame, like what the fuck is this guy talking about? And then we saw it, and
Yeah.
like I took a little snippet, like I paused it just the right point, took a snippet, and it was like there are clearly two rifles there. Like what is happening? Yeah,
Yeah. And as I'm thinking on it now, that that whole section was probably in engine because the armor doesn't change. The
right.
armor is the same as your
The same as
character.
what we're in. It just felt weird that they wrote in. I understand why they did it. Like they wanted everyone to have the same gun in there, and then they wanted to tie it back to Kvasov.
Right.
Like we're coming to an end of a story arc. We want to we want to have something to tie us to the beginning of the story arc. I get that, but then like to have the Kvasov as a cracked glass, like has the witness been watching us this whole time through that cracked glass? Like
And we do
it's
know that the cracked glass motif has been a big thing with the
that's the
witness.
thing. Yeah, he
Going
talked
back
to
to like,
Aramis, he
yep.
talked to Callus, like so. I think that is more the intentional thing there. Of the witness has been possibly observing us this whole time through that cracked glass, rather than taking us over. So it's
Yeah.
okay. I'm going to revise it one last time. I'm 50, 25, 25 now. So
Okay.
50% the witness took us over and stopped us from shooting it. 25% graphical error. Another 25% that the gun was just there because the witness has been observing us the entirety of our Destiny career through that crack glass.
Or maybe a combination of all three.
There you go.
So
Yeah. No, why not? Why
yeah.
not?
But no. So thank you very much for pointing that out. Took us on this fun little rabbit hole. But yeah. So that's where our shout outs end for this episode. If you were along for the ride on this and you liked what you heard, and you want to support us in some way, easiest way to do that is leave a review on your platform of choice, couple stars, whatever it may be, or honestly recommend us to somebody. If you got a friend that might be interested, let them know. But if you feel strongly enough that you want to leave a text review, we love seeing those. Or you can reach out to us via Twitter at Myths and Stories, Z instead of an S, or at Gmail, mythsandstories@gmail.com. As a reminder, we also have our backlog of episodes uploading to YouTube. There is a video a day, Monday through Friday. As we get those caught up to our current episodes, and you can find us there as well. And you may see yourself as a future shout out.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I got my thank you then. You know what? Thank you, Ido. Thank you, Scribe Ido. Son, daughter? I started to say son. Daughter of the great Misrax, Kel of House Light, former prisoner of Sheer Ido, whose namesake is where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Yeah, thanks for being a nut and just wanting to find stories like we want to. And finding the craziest of stories and noting that Henry Winkler actually existed before
Oh
the
my
beginning of fucking time. That's canon now, you know that, right?
God. Uh-huh.
That's it. Henry Winkler, one of the original
Beings of the
beings
universe.
of the universe. And hey, all of you people that know what that means, if you know, you know. All right. Myth, you got anything else?
That's it.
All right. Well, then from all of us lore daddies to all of you guardians out there, we'll see you next time.
You found your people. Guardians do love their myths and stories.